Hi, good evening, and welcome to day 20 of 20 Connect. This is our last time together, but I'm really glad that I kept this commitment up. There were days when I was tired, like today is my first day back to work in a month. I haven't had a month off of work in over 25 years, I think. So this has been a definite experience. But anyway, moving on. Today, I'd like to talk about do no harm. And I'd also like to talk about coming up with a plan for yourself. How I came up with a plan for myself. So first is do no harm, and I like to say do no harm, but take no shit. So I'm not going to start anything, but I think it's okay for us to have boundaries, and it's okay for me to have boundaries. Ones that keep me safe, ones and I have to express them to the other person. They have to be in agreement. Oftentimes I have to repeat myself or enforce my boundaries, but I can do so in a kind manner. But there's a book that I read, and I highly recommend it. It's Toltec Wisdom, so it is called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz Sr., and he has this wonderful imagery in it, and it's about imagining that as we walk through life and interact with each other, that we have scars, we have wounds that we can see, and certainly combat veterans or amputees, etc. Like there may be physical manifestations where people can see, oh, you have an injury there. But what we also have is we have these scars or even these open wounds that aren't visible. And so when we interact with each other with our words and our actions, sometimes we inadvertently touch on an old scar, or we stumble into an open wound, and we don't know that we have. And when that happens, there's conflict. You've hurt this person, whether you know it or not, and this person is reacting from that place where they're hurt, or maybe they're scared. So for the person, if you don't understand that you just touched on something that hurts that person, you may be sitting there going, oh my gosh, this person's a lunatic, or why are you being such a jerk to me? And what I love about this imagery is it gives me something to kind of reflect back on when I see somebody's reaction is like way out of perspective or out of scope with what's going on. It's a moment for me to pause, set my ego aside, and just look at the person. Because sometimes what I can see is that I have hurt that person. This is a hurt person who is reacting or lashing out. And I don't have to do any more harm to this person by getting defensive or by even getting aggressive and attacking them back. What I can do is I can simply sit there and go, oh my goodness, apparently I must have hurt you. Can we talk about that? Or I didn't realize that I touched on a nerve. Can we talk about that? So that's one of those things for me that's been a wonderful tool. I've learned when I was younger, and I'm still a pretty blunt person, but my delivery and the things that I chose to share my opinion about, especially when it wasn't solicited, my justification for it was, well, I'm just being honest. Well, I'm just telling you how I feel. But the truth is, people weren't necessarily asking me how I felt. And what I was saying wasn't kind. And what I was saying was my truth, but not their truth. So there's an acronym, and it's called THINK. And it's, is it true? Is it honest? Is it intelligent? Is it necessary? And is it kind? So my dogs are wrestling again. Stop. Hey. So when I go to have a conversation, or if I'm going to say something, particularly actually when I know that this is a conflicted relationship, I try to put what I would like to say through that acronym THINK, and then I can make a decision on whether or not I want to say it, if I want to modify the message, and again, I'll reason it out with somebody else as well if I'm unclear as to whether or not I need to say something. So that is my whole theory on do no harm, but take no shit. So moving on, for me, one of the things that was really, really useful is because I am an organizational freak. I love whiteboards and I love planning things out. So a really wonderful exercise for me was to make a plan. And that plan was basically about my emotions and my reactions to things. So what I learned is when I get into fear, I had to ask myself, okay, when you're in fear, where do you want to go? And where I want to go when I'm in fear is I want to go to faith. So my history is such, these dogs are killing me. They're having so much fun though. I hate putting it into it. So when I have been in fear in the past, it's kept me safe. And definitely, you know, if you're in a combat situation, that fear, that anxiety, that heightened awareness of absolutely everything, that kept you safe. That was a survival skill. And in my particular case, I actually wrote a letter that was thanking fear for keeping me safe. But then also telling it that it doesn't serve me anymore. And that instead I want to invite faith into my life. So in those moments where I get scared, I want to develop my process so that I recognize I'm scared. Where do I want to go? I want to go to faith. And so that's when I start going through my process of thinking of the things that comfort me and get me to that place of faith where I have faith in the universe and in myself and in the people around me, that I am safe and I don't need to be scared. The other plans, emotional plans that I had, I wanted to go from judgment, where I'm judging other people, to acceptance. And that right there, there's a huge piece of empathy in there, because judgment for me is, of course, that comparison game. And if I can let go of all of that, and in some cases even understand that I've been in that situation myself, if I'm judging somebody else's actions, I can get over to acceptance a lot faster, that I accept that person for who they are and where they are. I want to go from anger to joy. Anger for me is, it's a really, you know, like I said, it's one of my favorite emotions because it makes me feel so safe. But I also don't like running around being angry and having that projected onto other people. So that's my plan. I want to go from anger to joy. So let me figure out where that anger is coming from, and then let me do things that make me more joyful. Let go of the anger. I want to go from sadness to hope. Again, my depression, it was a hopeless place. I genuinely did not know how to, or if I was going to get out of that pit. So for me, I need to learn when I'm sad, how to express it, and then how to realize that there is hope, that I do have the tools to get out of, you know, that place, and I can experience my feelings, but I don't need to stay there. It's not going to feel like this forever. And I also want to go from hate to love. They say that hate is not the opposite of love, indifference is. So hate for me, and I'm not a hateful person, and I've never really been like a malicious person or a hateful person or anything like that. I've genuinely not had a lot of that. But I think that the few times that I have had as close to that or have had some hate, it's been because somebody has done something that's hurt me, or they have failed me in some way, or but it all really comes back to kind of being hurt. And that's another moment for empathy for me, because I know that I do things that let other people down, and I do things that hurt people too. So if I can do that, perhaps I can let go of that hate. I can set that down, and I can find things to love. Things to love about that person, things to love about the relationship, things to love about the lesson. So anyway, so that is how I kind of plan for, you know, when I get into those emotions, where I want to go. So I have an idea. Again, it's the end of 20 days. I've really appreciated everybody who's, you know, watched these, given me feedback. It's been good for me. I hope it's been good for you. And as Eckhart Tolle, and I may be mispronouncing his last name, but as he has once said, if the only prayer you ever say is thank you, that's enough. So thank you.